going to keep going. Thanks everyone for joining today. I really appreciate it. My name is Elizabeth Hansberg. I run People for Housing Orange County YIMBY, which stands for Yes in My Backyard. I want to thank you for joining us for this part 2 of our series on building affordable housing on church-owned or faith community land. We have been calling the series YIGBY, Yes in God's Backyard. I really appreciate your time. And I'm here with 3 people who were instrumental in bringing Wesley Village together. It's a project on in the city of Garden Grove on the campus of Garden Grove United Methodist Church. Okay, come on. All right, let me try a different one. There we go. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and read the introductions. Our first speaker will be Benjamin Sanchez. Benjamin has been working at Jamboree for over 7 years in his current position as the Senior Manager of Community Impact. He's committed to developing programs that are innovative and resident-centered and help increase community revitalization. He focuses on equipping individuals in affordable housing communities with tools for lifelong economic and social success through community engagement and collaboration. He's currently attending Cal Poly Pomona, working on his MBA with a focus in finance, and he sits on the board of a variety of organizations, including as the chair of the Cal State Fullerton Center for Healthy Neighborhoods, and is a board member for the Raise Foundation. Wayne Sheriff is with us from Garden Grove United Methodist Church, where he's been a member since 1962 when he settled in Orange County after serving in the Coast Guard. He was part of the committee that was formed within the church to explore additional uses for their campus property. He's now retired from the aerospace industry, and he is the past president of the Train Collectors Association, which has over 20,000 members worldwide. And last but not least, T. Tran, who was was with Jamboree Housing at the time that this project came together. T has over 26 years of professional real estate development experience in delivering sustainable quality projects, both market rate and affordable. T began his career as a landscape architect and worked for a redevelopment agency. Over the past 16 years, T has directed and managed various phases of development from acquisition to completion of 39 projects for a total of over 4,000 apartments throughout California. So those are the guests that are joining us today to tell the story of Wesley Village. Why are we telling this story? Why was People for Housing Orange County YIMBY motivated to tell this story? As you know, if you are on this webinar or watching in the future, you probably know that we have a shortage of affordable housing. There was a bill a couple of years ago called, I think it was SB 899, which proposed making affordable housing on church or faith community property what's called a by right use, which means you could go ahead and build it with sort of minimal discretionary review. That bill did not pass, but the root of the idea really took hold. And in Orange County right now in the 6th cycle arena, a lot of cities are looking to faith communities in their cities as sites for affordable housing. And some cities are going as far as writing development ordinances, development standards to enable this use sort of as a by right, that you wouldn't have to have, as many hearings as you would have as if it was a discretionary use. So I wanted to put this message out into the world because I wanted to show what was possible. What does it look like when a city or a community decides that they're going to allow affordable housing to be built on their on church campuses or faith community land in their community? You could think that it would work well, you could think it would not work well, and I wanted to bring an example to life of how it works in Orange County. So that was the motivation for bringing this webinar to you today. Now we're going to talk about what does it look like on the ground, and our first speaker is going to be Benjamin Sanchez.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Hope you guys are having a good day so far, good week. So again, my name is Benjamin Sanchez, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Jamboree first. And so Jamboree, we are a nonprofit developer that provides affordable housing for working families, seniors, and people with special needs. We've been transforming lives for over 32 years now, as our organization was founded in 1990. Our mission, as it states, is Jamboree delivers high quality, affordable housing and services that transform lives and strengthen communities. And our vision is every person will live a strong, healthy, and sustainable community. So we are, again, one of the largest nonprofits in the state of California. And our main belief of why we've grown so much is that we are a very driven group of people here at Jamboree. This is demonstrated in our development and in our ownership of over 10,000 affordable rental units in over 100 California communities, and the amount of resident services that comes with building these beautiful projects. Next slide, please.
My computer is having issues.
No worries.
There we go.
So a little bit about Wesley Village. So Wesley was completed in 2017, and it's located in the city of Garden Grove. Our property is a multi-generation community with seniors and families housing development. Wesley has 2 3-story buildings with a total of 46 apartment homes. 30 of them are for working family units, and the other 16 units are for seniors. Our ultimate purpose is to deliver and maintain high quality housing for Garden Grove residents, as well as to create a sustainable community benefit for the surrounding neighborhoods, with the apartment community as the platform for facilitating services and programs. And as you can see on the slide, you can see that our household earnings are between 50 to 60% of our area median income. That means that between 53,000 to 63,000 is the income for a family of 4 per year. If you compare that to families here in Orange County alone, it's very low, and you can see it's a very vulnerable population, with the average being 106,000. And next slide, please.
Now we're going to talk about what made this project possible. And it really is a collaboration between 3 actors in our story: the faith community of Garden Grove United Methodist Church, the developer Jamboree Housing, and then the city of Garden Grove. Wayne, would you like to talk about Garden Grove United Methodist?
Okay. First of all, I want to let you know that our church is about 150 years old. And we, going back that time, property was not an issue about acquiring. And in the past maybe 20 years, one of our neighbors willed 1 additional lot to the church. So we had about 2.2 acres to work with. Our conference determined back in about 2013, 2014, that due to the projected membership of the church and the local churches around, our church was a designated for closure. So what we did at the local church is get a committee together to consider what is the future of our church. And one of the ideas was the housing project on our unused property, which turned out to be the right thing to do. The housing project, it would provide a long-term revenues to sustain the mission of the church, the buildings, and the operations. Next slide. Key to success was picking Jamboree. Jamboree had a great track record in the local area, and we were looking for someone who had experience. And they not only did the construction, but also managed the project after the construction. And because they managed it, our feeling was that they would do a better job of construction because they don't want to do the repairs necessary while they're managing it. A second very important factor was the full service law firm that would represent the church's interests and ensure the long-term mission of the church. we feel that this is not only just Jamboree, but this full service law firm was really a significant part of the project, because they were able to take care of property alignments, city permits, and everything like that. So it was a very good decision we made. The process included numerous information meetings with the congregation and neighbors, working with the city, and because Head Start School had been on our property for a dozen years, we had to take their concerns into consideration. So it worked out very well. We are very good neighbors with the project, and they're very good neighbors with us.
Great, thank you, Wayne. Our next speaker is going to be T. Tran, and he's going to talk about how this deal was able to be done, how it all came together, and what the factors were that enabled Jamboree to be successful.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. So good afternoon.
I'm having technical issues. Let's try that. Okay.
That's okay. Thank you. So for this project, and just like any project, development project, the partnership is a key to delivering quality projects, affordable housing projects. So you heard the discussion with the church and the city being our partner involved in the deal. And like Wayne said, it starts with, the property. So without the property, you can't build any project. So, it's great that, the church, had this vision, and partly because, they're in dire situation then. So it helps to have those partners come, realize that, they have opportunity here and reach out and talk to us. And also with the city, oftentimes we work with city because affordable housing, we need those gap funding, and city comes forth with soft fund that allows these projects to happen. So as you can see from a funding standpoint, the city provide us home fund, which is federal money. I think there's also additional fund that beside the home fund, as I recall. And then our, as a developer, we also contribute by deferring the fees. So those are, count as a capital source. And typical to all the other affordable project, we have tax credit equity, tax credit, and we generate that from equity from investor. Like here, we have Boston Financial. And then your typical debt that you do for project is construction and permanent. That's provided U.S. Bank and takeout by CC&R. So those essentially are our capital stack. I think there was one more, as I recall, that was non here, which we apply later on. Is the Federal Home Loan Bank, which is a source that we apply after we start construction. It makes the project more competitive for it. So that's kind of round out the financing structure for the project. Next slide. So, you heard Ben mention about, Jamboree. Our goal on the development side here is to make sure we, being a developer, is to bring all the stakeholders together and coordinate the design and entitlement and financing to make this project reality. So once we have the commitment from all party, we sign the MOU, we get the commitment letter from the city, then we're off running, trying to, on a dual track, get the design entitlement process going, get the approval, as well as looking for, the, funding from both the state, for tax credit, as well as lenders and investors to come in the deal. So, we count those our financial partners that, keeping the theme of what we're talking about. And then we work closely with staff, to make sure that, the project is meet the design standard, getting approval, getting permits. And then our goal, when I joined Jamboree, we have an in-house construction company called QDCI. So this is one project that we took on that allow us to provide full one-stop service, if you will. So not only we're developing, we're building it, and then managing at the back end with resident service that Ben mentioned. We're also involved in lease up and marketing. So we help, very typical of our project. We work with our third-party property management to get the lease up going, and also that process is included with the city as well. They have a referral process. And then, to Ben's discussion about services, I've worked on a few, just another developer before, but Jamboree, what distinguishes it from other developer here is our dedication to services is the best in the industry here. I'm on the development side, so when my jobs end when project's complete and Ben's and asset management takes over. So it's important that for the success of the project long term, and Wayne, I didn't share a little bit about it, but what's been 3, 4, 4 or 5 years now, and the project is successful after development is because of this. It's about the services, the keeping the maintenance, providing the all the program and classes that's necessary to help resident move further. So next slide. I want to talk about a little about the project design. As mentioned, it's a 2.2 acre. It's kind of hard to tell on here, but the church, as you can see, is on the right-hand side. All the classroom in white, daycare, all those are existing. So the challenge on building this project is, while we have all these you might have seen the new project on the left-hand side, basically our underutilized parking space. So we have to work, it didn't show here, but there's it says leasing center community facility. Actually, that's a daycare, a Head Start program that originally was, I think was kind of on where there's a building that, spanned daycare over. So I think that was, Jim, Wayne, I don't know, it can explain, but it was demolished, and then we were able to create this new community adjacent to the church here. So the senior building is building B on the top, and that this is a multi-generational property, so one of our first, and then below is our senior family project that it's on a podium. So it's a very difficult site, and we try to, between all the development standard, parking, what have you, and open space requirement, we're able to, fit all this program in. So the biggest difference here, I think, is the, the community nature of this space and the multi-generational. Next slide. So this is an image of a senior. You've seen some other image at the beginning. So this is a senior project here. It has basically back up to the other office space, but it's a very spacious, in my view, layout for the community. It has services space in there. Each of the building itself is standalone, if you will. So program and service can be run out of it. There's a top level roof space that tenants can use. Also with this project, there's a single garage that flank on the bottom there. So we call these tuck under building type. Next slide. This is a view of the family building courtyard. So, again, amenity space that we need to provide for project for the family. We have barbecue area. There's a tot lot behind this, in this image. The center of building, there's a laundry room. And then below this is a parking for the family side. Next slide. And this is just a unit image. This is a senior actually. A little story about this interesting. The lady that lives here actually, as I found out throughout the course of the project, and we work very closely, with the community, with the church community. So the lady that works in the Head Start program on next door happened to have her mother went this way. So one day I went in and it's like, wait a minute, this person looks so familiar. So it turned out, I found out that her mom ended up living here and she worked on the ground floor. So it's a nice story and she really loved her place. You can see she decorated very well. So it turned out a very nice community project. So next slide. I think that's back to you, Elizabeth.
Yeah, so I wanted to just share a little bit about the city's role. I invited them, but unfortunately there wasn't anyone available to come to talk about their role. But as you heard, they were significant in contributing funding. This is something that local government, city or county, when projects are rated for being awarded tax credits at the state level, they get points. And one of the categories that your project can earn points is the city, is the county making a contribution, it's like called a local match. And so the fact that the city of Garden Grove was able to use their home funds and some of the residual redevelopment funds to move this project forward, I'm sure had played a significant role in attracting other funding. So I've heard financing of affordable housing described as a 7-layer cake. So the city's input and contributions of funding is one of those layers. Why was the city motivated to do this? Well, obviously the housing shortage has only gotten worse over the past 5 years, but even when this project was started, Garden Grove leadership recognized that we had an affordability crisis and that there was a great need for more affordable housing. One thing that I did find out in doing the research for this project is that parking was an area of concern, and it continues to be an area of concern on infill projects. But one thing that we do know is that if we can reduce parking requirements, it becomes easier to fund affordable housing. And so for projects that are located near transit, high quality transit areas, reducing parking is one way that we as the city or the community can help to sort of underwrite those costs, because parking is actually quite expensive and contributing to construction costs of a development. So that's one area, but they did lead to a parking management plan, which is working. And I know in other projects that I've been aware of, two of the ones that we featured in our part 1 series of YIGBY, that they were able to do a shared parking arrangement. So parking does not need to be a barrier to building affordable housing on your faith community's property. And then the last thing I'll say is just to share that in the beginning, when they were putting together the list of folks that would like to be residents, Garden Grove is one of the cities in Orange County that has its own housing authority. And so in the beginning, they were maintaining that list, but now that the project is developed, there's a property management firm that's contracted by Jamboree to kind of manage that, the lease up process, right? If someone moves out and they have an open unit, it falls to the property management firm. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about sort of the role that the city can play. And then going forward, many cities, and this is what brought this webinar to life, many cities, we are currently in the 6th cycle housing RHNA, which stands for Regional Housing Needs Assessment. We're in the 6th cycle. Cities are being asked to find sites for affordable housing, and they're turning a lot of times to faith community sites. And so another role that the city can play is in creating what are called development standards or zoning code that lays out for the developer how they want to see residential uses on faith community land. If you have clear standards as a city, that's another thing that the city can do to contribute to making this an effective, an effective option for building more affordable housing. So that's the part for the city. Oh, whoop. I am having, here we go. Oh, nope, not quite. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to turn it back over to Benjamin, who's going to talk about now that Wesley Village has come into fruition, it has residents, it's a community. What is community life like at Wesley Village today?
So thanks, Elizabeth. So again, everyone, Benjamin Sanchez. Talking about the services at our properties is, like T mentioned, it's not just about the development piece, it's also how can we help the families once they're in these communities and their homes. And we always assume that housing is the only thing. It is the biggest factor for families to be able to move on and can be able to financially support their families in other ways, but there is so much more support that they need. And so with that being said, we usually have a coordinator on site for each one of our properties. Here at Wesley Village, we do have a resident service coordinator, but that's not enough. We want to look at the holistic approach of helping all of our residents here in the community and reaching that economic stability, or finding ways to be proactive and identify issues that we could eliminate. So these barriers can be and should be changed to help individuals and families live more productive, meaningful, and equitable lives. So with that being said, we do have a resident service coordinator, but we have a variety of partnerships throughout the county and throughout this, specifically the city. And what we've created is we created substations for them to be able to be here on site, because a lot of times we realize that the challenge is the transportation piece for a lot of families. Sometimes it's a single parent that's trying to get to an after school program or take their kids to some type of healthcare program, or we have seniors that also are limited in transportation as well. So we like to bring those services on site. And with these substations, we've been able to partner with organizations like Healthy Smiles, Boys and Girls Club of Garden Grove, Lesonac, Orange County Head Start, Give for a Smile, Council of Aging of Southern California, and many more. The fact that we have all these different partners here really does take that approach of reaching out to just all ages of the family unit, and also affects different aspects of the needs. And the reason why is because we believe in a model that we like to follow a lot, and it's called the social determinants of health, where it has 5 pillars that focuses on economic stability, healthcare, education, neighborhood, and environment, and social and community context. With these specific pillars, we try to advocate and help the residents here at Wesley Village. We also conduct monthly meetings, and we provide outlets for our residents to speak and hear them out and hear what are the factors that are needed here at the community. There are times that we might have everything here as we assume as services, but residents really tell us what the needs are. And it could be as simple as a food program. During the pandemic, that was the #1 challenge for a lot of residents, especially for our seniors. So we partner up with the OC Food Bank, and they brought their trolley, which was an RV, but when you walked inside, it was like a little mini grocery store. And our residents had the opportunity to go in their shop, get the produce and the food that they needed to be able to sustain themselves. We've had opportunities of Healthy Smiles, where it's an RV that also stops by, is able to park and help kids with dental health needs. One of our biggest health supporters here is the Orange County Head Start, where they have their own facility and they're able to provide daycare for a lot of our parents when where they work 2-3 jobs throughout the day just to be able to afford rent, and sometimes struggle because they don't have that luxury of childcare. And so those are big factors that people don't notice, that takes into account of how to help families, because again, housing is a big piece of all this, but there is just so much more that's needed in order to help these families to for them to be able to sustain themselves and just to move forward and progress. And so partnerships like the Boys and Girls Club, where they run teen programs, where they focus on anxiety issues, especially lately with the pandemic. So there's a lot of outlets that we provide during our services. And Elizabeth, if you want to change to the next slide, we have a few pictures that we want to show throughout our programs here at Wesley. And as you can see, we focus on not just the adults, but also the children, and we focus on the social and emotional learning for them. A place where they could feel comfortable, they feel safe, and we just share with them just certain skill sets that they could benefit in the future. Our free clinic with less than that, I think that is the huge advantage. I don't know how many free clinics there are now in Orange County, but the fact that we have one on site where it's literally free, where we have an organization that has doctors and nurses that actually donate their time to provide these services, to provide basic Medicare for families that either don't have the funds or based on their status as a citizen, they cannot go to look for support and help. These are organizations that are just hungry to help other people, and it's just a big factor in the collaboration between all of us in one place. That's what I mean about the holistic approach, because we are connecting with each other, where it's a synergy that provides better outcomes for the families in our community and for the surrounding area. And that's just a picture of one of the rooms at the Head Start.
All right, so we got a bunch of questions in the chat, and I am gonna be the moderator and try to go through these. Several of the questions asked was asking me if we would send a link to the part 1, which we did about a year ago, I think, with 2 churches in Buena Park, 2 Episcopal churches. And I'm going to send out a follow-up email. So I will make sure to put the link to the part 1 in that email so that you can watch it. So let's see. So here's a question about recertifying for income. So this person says, you know, if someone gets a new job and they start earning more money than what they had been earning before, like, do they have to move out? How does that, can you speak to that?
I can speak to that. So, you know, property management, they calculate those type of decisions. So for example, there is times where maybe a family of 4 move in, but their child might be 16 years old, 17 years old. So there's an understanding that within a year or 2, this child might be working eventually. And so that's a source of income that they're gonna have to account for. So we don't evict people for that. We try to work with those families. I know it fluctuates throughout time. So I think if anything, it would probably be a different AMI at that point, or just increasing their rent based on the income. But our goal, our main focus is to make sure we work with them. We don't want to evict anybody. That's not the point here. The point is we want to make sure that they're gaining that support. We want them to be successful. And so with that being said, again, it's either we increase maybe the rent or just work with them and see how to justify that. Now, if it is within the first year, and then we notice that the average income from the family went from 50,000 to 120,000, then yeah, then, there's some red flags there. But if we're talking about within 2-3 years, you see an increase of maybe $10,000, $15,000, and that's a conversation that that families can have with the property management. I don't know, T, if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I can. More on the financing side, it affects the back end in terms of tax credit. Usually these projects, when Ben mentioned the AMI, if you pass that threshold, there's a potential to lose the welfare exemption on the units, and therefore it affects from an operating standpoint, the property tax, right? So that's the one caveat that we keep in mind when we manage the property. So we'll encourage, family like Ben said, if they go from 50 to 120, maybe help them to look for, if they turn out that, we're in that situation, we'll work with them, but like Ben said, we're not gonna push them out. But then, the properties just need to make sure we manage operating, so.
We have a question about how are the ongoing operating expenses financed now that it's built?
Yeah, so the ongoing operating is part of how we finance when we underwrite the project. So it's paid for basically from the rent incomes through the properties. So it's the lender underwrite that, and we just rely on the project rents to service the debt. So.
Speaking of the funding, we have this question about who owns the building.
Yeah, so the partnerships own the building. So generally the way these projects are set up is essentially 2 to 3 members of that limited partnership. So Jamboree is a managing general partner, and we have an investor that gets in the deal where basically they're in the deal because they provide the equity for the tax rate they get. So and they're in the deal essentially for the compliance period, which is 15 years, and after that, they'll exit the deal. So, but the partnership's the one that owns the property. I don't know if that answered the question there.
I think so. We have a question. I think this question is for Wayne. A couple of people have asked, like, what was the process like for the church to even begin considering, for the church to begin considering this? And did you encounter any opposition from the community?
When we found out that we were going to be considered closing, we decided to get a committee together of some of the members of the church and sit down and determine, do we want to keep this church going? If so, how are we going to do it? And how would we finance it, quote unquote, financially keep the church going? So what we decided to do is get together and just start thinking outside the box. And one of the things that we considered was this housing project on the unused property that we had. So we've jumped on that and went for it.
And in the process of thinking about this project and working with Jamboree to get it built, did you encounter any community pushback, either within the church or from without?
Well, I would say probably 99% of the church congregation was for it. There's always a few. And we did contact all the neighbors, and some of the neighbors got together and hired an attorney when we were going through the information process with the neighbors. But we found that the preponderance of the neighbors were absentee landlords. So, they really couldn't have much of a story to counter what we were going to do. It ended up that the city council, we went to the city council and made a presentation, and the city council jumped on it and said, go for it.
That's great. That's awesome. That's what we like to hear. Brave city councils that tell us to move projects forward.
Yes, absolutely.
So we've had a couple of questions about how the limited liability partnership is structured, who the members are. Is the church a part of it? I don't know if you feel like you can talk about that, if that's private information or.
Well, I mean, the church, I think, is mentioned. They're the deal with the ground lease, right? So, so they own the property. So the LP, the limited partnership, ground lease the property for long term. So that's how it's structured.
So it's a long-term ground lease of the land from the church, and then the building itself is owned by the limited liability partnership.
Right.
Okay.
Limited partnership, not limited liability.
Oh, sorry. Limited partnership. Sorry.
Yeah.
Another question asks, the church stated that they received some revenue. And the question is, do they get a percentage of the residents' rent, or are they drawing money from other uses on the campus?
We in the negotiations with Jamboree and the agreement signed, we received a certain amount of money from them, and not just upfront, but also lasted for about 6 years. And after the loans are paid off, we will receive a portion of the rents.
Okay. So first, the rents are going to pay the lenders that enabled the building to be built. And then after those loans are paid back, the city will receive an ongoing percentage.
No, the church will.
Church will, sorry. Yes. That's what I meant.
But we did receive upfront funding from Jamboree upfront.
Yeah, that's capital, so that's not rent. Just
Okay. Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. Those are the questions that we've gotten so far. If anybody else has, here's a question of, did the financing of this use what are called project-based vouchers? Which I think I can answer that and say no.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But in theory, though, they could be a funding source could they be a funding source for a project? I know there's been discussion that the county has the option of using 20% of their vouchers for projects, but I don't really know what that looks like in practical terms.
Yeah, what I understand is Housing Authority can convert them to project-based, so the regular tenant-based voucher, you call it, can be converted, but in this case, they did not have any for the project. So. Okay.
Let's see. This person asked a question: is 46 units a typical, like the size of a typical development by Jamboree? And would a larger community with more apartments, would it need more staff?
Yeah, so I can answer that. So typical, this is on a smaller side. The larger unit, it ranged from, anywhere in, I believe the smallest is like 25 that we have, and gone up to 100. I don't know, Ben might know, 100 some odd project. But from a, financing affordable housing, depending on the type of tax credit program you go after, there's a certain sweet spot, particularly with what we call the 9% competitive application. There's a sweet spot around 60, 70 units. That's how you can score and get funding. Obviously, nowadays it's changed drastically with 4% being more competitive now, as the state are pushing for more production. So the 4% program actually allow you to build, I've seen project up to like 200, 300 units. So, you get less tax rate, but then you're able to leverage more bonds, and rents are higher in those instances. The 9% program are deeper targeting versus the 4%, although, like I said, that's changing now as well. So the world's been turned upside down right now with, COVID and construction costs going to the roof, supply chain. So things are a little bit out of whack right now in affordable housing, but I think everybody's trying to make the deal work. So we'll see. I think things need to settle down a little bit here with all the stuff going on. But that's a cycle of development, yeah. So I don't know if that kind of answers the question.
I think it does. A couple questions about occupancy rate. Do you have a lot of vacancies?
Usually no. Ben maybe can answer that, because these are very high demand.
Well, yeah, it's I don't have the number for the vacancy rate, but it is low. It's really rare when we have openings in our units, and then our wait lists are are even closed at this point. For example, not necessarily for Wesley Village, but we do have a property at Clark Commons, at Buena Park, sorry, named Clark Commons. And it's a 75 unit apartment complex, and we had over 3,500 families apply for that property. And so
3,500, right? Is that
3,500
3,500
for
families
75 units.
applying for 75 apartments?
Yes, and so that tells you like the need, you know, how a lot of people are looking for affordable housing. So our wait lists are closed. An average, it takes 5 to 7 years for somebody from the wait list to get a unit. I mean, under special circumstances, it could be sooner than that, but that's the average for our families.
Great, thank you. There's been a couple of questions asking about the impact of crime, and I'm actually going to answer this question myself. There's a lot of data that's been done. There's been studies done about the impact of affordable housing on the surrounding community. But right now, as we speak, the center, let's see, hold on. The Livable Cities Initiative at University of California, Irvine. So UC Irvine Livable Cities Initiative in the School of Social Ecology is right now putting together, they did a study on Orange County and about the sites that have been chosen for affordable housing. And I think it's it's since 2000. And they did a study of it, and that data is forthcoming. So in early June, they're going to be releasing the results of that data. So I'm going to defer that question until June, but we will make sure that that gets up on our website, and we'll definitely put it on social media. I am very optimistic from what we've seen in other areas of the United States. There is no negative impact on your property values by building affordable housing. A lot of times they actually go up because, as you can see from these pictures, and if you go to Irvine has, you know, a lot of affordable housing that you cannot tell the difference between what are the regular market rate apartment buildings and what are the affordable housing. So it really is a myth or a stereotype that somehow, you know, these become, that they become a blight on the community. That in some way, I mean, nothing could be further from the truth, because the level of management that goes into managing affordable housing is more than you get from a standard apartment building, where, you know, the management is really just there to help you, fix your, leaky sink, right? They're not there providing support for working families. And we know that a lot of the things that, are barriers to folks being independently self-sufficient financially are, the hardships that come from having low income, from having service sector jobs and children. And so the fact that you have an apartment complex where there's services on site to help folks manage, it really does make such a huge difference in the lives of people. So I'm gonna push off the impact on the surrounding community question until that data comes out. But yeah, there's been a lot of research on it. There was recently a study released in, I think it's Alexandria, Virginia. And I would encourage you to Google that, because they did a study that just came out, I think, in the last 2 or 3 months. Let me check the time. All right, we're almost at an hour. I wonder, are there any other questions that folks want to put in the chat? This question says, have there been conflicts? Excuse me. Have there been conflicts between the church's beliefs and the nonprofits that support the services? Oh, the nonprofits that provide the services. Ben, you can probably speak to that. I would imagine not, but.
No, there hasn't been any conflict or issues with the church's beliefs and the nonprofits. I think it's a normal standard that a lot of nonprofits, their mission is based on their program. I mean, they don't talk about religion. And I think it's, I'm sorry, I don't have a clear answer for it just because it's never happened. So we've never had any issues. I think, if anything, they're more impressed at the fact that, you have organizations like the church that don't only speak, but, they also walk and they, take these actions in building affordable housing for families. So if anything, they're more impressed than anything else. So I'm sorry if that wasn't the answer you were looking for, but again, we've never had a conflict and it's not even been brought up, but it's a really good question.
Wayne, do you want to speak to that point?
We have never had a problem since we've opened up, since Wesley Village has opened up. They're great neighbors, and we feel we're great neighbors of them. We go our way, they go their way, and I don't think we've ever had an issue to date.
That's great. That's great. I don't see any more questions coming about the project. There was a question of, can we find the part 1 on YouTube? And I believe you can. If you go to our channel, we're a chapter of a larger YIMBY organization called YIMBY Action. And I think you can find it on the YIMBY Action YouTube channel, but I will make sure to put a link to it in the message that goes out. I want to say a huge thank you to Jamboree Housing and to Wayne and Garden Grove United Methodist for participating in this. This is a snapshot of all the things that had to come together to get Wesley Village built, but it's clearly making a difference in the lives of the folks that are living there. It's clearly making a difference in the ability of the church to maintain their property and keep their community, their faith community intact. And I would love to see this on, I'd love to see us in so many ways put our mission put our money where our mouth is, if you would, or live out our mission as people of faith. So I'm very grateful. I want to say thank you to Providence St. Joseph's Health, who has funded our work. I'd also like to say thank you to SCAG for the Call for Collaborations grant, which we received, which has also helped put this together. Where the focus of those grants, a lot of it has been implementation of housing elements. And as I was saying, that building affordable housing on faith community land is a strategy that several cities in Orange County are identifying in their housing element. And so we wanted to bring you a snapshot of what is possible and what it would look like if your community or your faith community or your city decided to move it forward. So, you have any closing thoughts, my panelist friends?
I'd like to make just a comment. Since this has opened, we have received dozens of inquiries from different churches, not only in the area but across the country. I'm talking with a pastor now in North Carolina. There was a group of people that came out from I think it was Nebraska or one of those states there, that came out just to see the project. So it has gotten a lot of attention from the faith community, and we've been very happy to share anything we have with them.
Awesome. We did get one last question. It was said, it's what do you wish you knew now? What do you wish that you might have done differently knowing what you know now? Is there anything that you'd address and put in that category? Any of you?
I think starting sooner.
What a great answer.
No, I agree. Yeah, I mean, we need the land. So as all the church out there and temples, the more people start and call Wayne and his team, we can start sooner. So we need the land.
That's great. That's great. All right. Well, I'm going to give you back the 5 minutes of your evening and say a huge thank you for participating in this to Jamboree and to Wesley Village and to Garden Grove United Methodist. And with that, I will look for my email with the links, and I want to thank you all for your time this has been really great.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thanks for setting.
Yeah, thanks for participating. All right. Good night,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.